Here we go.
This is where you reveal you're a ghost.
Yes. Are you a serial killer?
Yeah.
Take it to that one.
There's the next comic pitch right there.
There it is. Ghost and serial killer?
Yeah.
I love it. All right, here we go. The whole concept is brilliant. How did you even come up with it in the first place? Like, it really blew my mind.
Well, actually, it started out on Facebook. I was just posting what I thought were kind of funny quotes of Snagglepuss or Huckleberry Hound, were these gothic southern playwrights, you know, just them saying funny little things. And my editor contacted me and said, "Are you serious about this? You should turn this into a comic." And so that got me thinking about, well, what would it really be like to be a gay icon in the 1950s, you know, during the Cold War and the Lavender Scare, and also to be like sort of a southern gothic playwright. And then after that, the series really just started writing itself because the challenges are obvious, and it really became about what it would be like to have to create culture while living, you know, a secret life, and about what it is to sort of have to live in secret. And the thing that really kind of drew me to this idea was that it takes place during the Cold War, so the United States is engaged in a propaganda war with the Soviet Union. And a lot of the propaganda was, well, look how great our culture is, look how great our plays and movies are, and our music is. So they're trying to win the Cold War by touting these achievements of like gay playwrights and, you know, African American, you know, jazz musicians. And at the same time, they're in the 50s, they're forcing these people to live as second-class citizens. So there's like an inherent irony in that they are at once embraced and yet persecuted.
Every nation is a monster in the making, and monsters will come for you whether you believe in them or not. That really kind of blew my stack. Was that a thing that was in your mind as you wrote it, that like some of these things that were happening in the 1950s feel super relevant right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I usually work what's going on to the world and what I'm thinking about at the time into what I'm writing. The idea that people have sort of convinced themselves that it can't get too bad because of the United States, or it can't happen here, which is completely false. Not only can it happen here, it has happened here, and it's happening here. And that's really what I want it to be about, like this sort of false sense of safety that people have, that they're safe just because they live in the country of their youth, which is illusory.
What I thought was really interesting is in the first issue, you really sort of set up this thing. It's like a real bait and switch, right? Where we've got like this very nice seeming couple and they're out to dinner. And then, not to ruin it for you if you haven't read it yet, but I feel like this will entice you to read. And you really think at first they're probably gonna go see the Snagglepuss show, but no, they're actually going to see the Rosenbergs be killed for being traitors to the state.
Yeah, and there's a line in there which I think kind of encapsulates that, is that entertainment's not just a harmless giggle, it's people are what they watch. And this kind of was the embodiment of that. It's like, and I think, again, it's commentary on what's going on in the United States right now. We are the macabre things that we take interest in. We are the anonymous hate that we spew on, you know, the internet and in chat rooms. That's not some giggle, it's not something somebody's doing as a prank. That's them speaking from the truth that they wouldn't admit to themselves.
Talk about the art, though. It's such a perfect fit for what you're doing as a writer.
Yeah, the artwork is I've been really happy with. I've lucked out to be matched with Mike Avila, who's, I think, new to Big Two Comics, but he really has a firm grasp of the tragedy and also the sort of mordant humor that is in it. And so to me, the big thing when I'm dealing with artwork is, are they gonna understand the emotions behind what I'm writing? I don't want just some like paper dolls on the panel acting out the scenes I'm writing. I want them to actually have the emotions that I'm ascribing to the characters, and he nailed it, I think.
Yeah, it's not easy. I was thinking about that recently, looking at some other anthropomorphized characters in comics, and sometimes it's not so simple to get human emotion out of the face and still make it seem like the animal that it's supposed to be. And I think that that's the thing that he is really, 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 really excelled at.
Yeah, it doesn't look like glass-eyed Disneyland mascots talking to each other at all. It looks like living, breathing human beings in the flesh of animals.
You are, in addition to doing Snagglepuss and having Huckleberry Hound, which, by the way, very exciting. As soon as he pops up, I was like, there he is, oh my darling. But you have also done the Flintstones in a way that is very different from any way that the Flintstones have ever been done before.
Yeah, the thing that kind of attracted me to the Flintstones is basically a story about the world's first civilization. So I thought, well, I'll just make this my manifesto on civilization and where I think it goes wrong, and what I think it could do better. So it just kind of worked out that way. And I think it's something that people didn't really think they needed, or nobody ever thought they needed, like a civilizational manifesto disguised as a Flintstones comic. To me, that was what I wanted to write, and I'm glad it was received as well as it was.
It makes me kind of wish, you know, John Goodman's still alive. I'm just gonna put it out there. Look at the kind of work he's doing right now anyway. What do you think? Can we make a Flintstones movie based on your story?
What you're saying is you might as well sign up for a career killer now.
No, man, I think this movie would be dope.
I would love it if they made a Flintstones movie. To me, like one of the things, you know, as a kid, I remember watching the Flintstones and was actually kind of horrified by it because, you know, they have a camera, they click a picture, and a little bird comes out and chisels an image and goes back in the camera. But, you know, and it was supposed to be a cute thing, but I thought that little bird has to live in that camera, like in darkness, 24 hours a day, just hoping that somebody will need a picture.
See, and I thought that same thing about the bird that's always playing the record.
Yeah. Maybe
you know?
John Goodman could play the bird.
There you go. Wow. I kind of feel like that's a... Sorry, John Goodman. Well, that's sort of cruel. Oh, well. Sorry, John.
Flintstones is about cruelty.
So's the Jetsons. It's all about, can you do a Jetsons book, too? Can we finally... has anyone ever done the official thing where it's like they're all up here and nicey nice and it's terrible down below? Has anybody ever actually made a comic out of it?
I don't think so. There should be one, though. There should be
Okay.
a crossover.
So I've made a decision, and I have a lot of power and clout, so it's going to be you.
Oh, excellent.
You're welcome.
I'll take that.
You're welcome.
If I can get that in writing.
Great, we'll do it after the interview's done. But speaking of things that are kind of like, in a weird way, the futuristic version of your Flintstones is the thing you're working on right now, which is Judge Dredd. Explain the story, because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Judge Dredd is kind of the natural consequence. Mega City 1 is kind of the natural consequence of the civilizational errors made by Bedrock in the ancient past. So that's, I think, yeah, there is a certain amount of continuity there, because the urban decay and decline is kind of all a result of Mega City 1 not really taking its own citizens seriously, not really treating them like they're human beings who deserve a decent life. And it comes back to bite them, as it would any civilization. You can't just neglect and ignore people and not expect it to come back to haunt you. And so, and the series I'm writing for Judge Dredd is largely about that. There's this block on the outskirts of Mega City 1 called the Patrick Swayze block. And the jobs went away, and then it just became this dumping ground for sewage and toxic waste. And then it became a focal point of an invasion from the mutants of Cursed Earth. And so it's about Judge Dredd having to combine forces with the criminal gang that runs Patrick Swayze block to defend the block from a mutant invasion. But it's also about him having to sort of begrudgingly acknowledge the humanity of the people that normally he would be arresting or throwing in the ISO cubes.
How much did you feel like you could stretch him with your story?
I didn't feel like I had to stretch him very much at all. I feel like sort of the core of Dredd's character is that he's someone who can't be BS'd. He's someone who sees through every excuse, through every perp's lie. Only in this case, as he sees the decay that this building is in and the horror that these people's everyday lives have turned into, he realizes that the person BSing him is not, or the perp is actually the state in this instance. The perp is the people who created the system that set these people in these horrible conditions.
Dredd is in a particular world, which, I mean, it takes us to an extreme. It's not exactly our world, obviously, but like in our world, like if you plucked him out and put him here, would he be good or bad?
No, I think he'd be bad. I think he's not the kind of person you want roaming the streets, because he's got no nuance. He's got no sort of genuflection. He thinks he knows what needs to happen, and he'll just execute it regardless of what the situation actually needs. But he's perfect for a world that's gone crazy, for a world on its ear, where you can't overthink things and you just got to react instantaneously because there's a war going on.
We should talk about this, though, that this is influenced by what's happening in the world right now.
It's very much influenced by what's happening in the world right now, and the idea that we can solve every problem just by building walls or just sealing people off and not really thinking about them or thinking of them as human beings, and that they'll just somehow magically disappear and won't be our problem anymore. It's not the case. And every civilization, I think, will ultimately succeed or fail based upon its ability to take care of people that we don't really care about. And in this sense, Mega City 1 has failed, and the result is a mutant invasion.
Yeah, I know that we kind of have like these people in Patrick Swayze block, and they're not getting what they need, so they're trying to sort of do it on their own. Were there any sort of influences that you've seen happening in America right now that were sort of like, I can use this and write it into my story?
Well, it wasn't really happening at the time I was writing, but it's happened since. And I think there's lots of instances of people creating their own institutions because their institutions have failed them. And the most obvious example right now is the teenagers in the aftermath of the Parkland shooting, not waiting for the government to come to its senses and start taking assault weapons out of the hands of people, and just starting to take it on themselves to do the action that our elected, and some would say paid, representatives are failing to do.
A very important question, and this is how we're going to wrap. Very critical that you give me the most serious answer you can. Patrick Swayze block, not a great place to live, but if you were going to live someplace, you were going to live in a block in Mega City 1, what would it be named after?
Oh, I think I would want to live in the Andy Kaufman block. I think that would be a fun place.
It sounds dicey, but...
Is there a Snagglepuss block?
Oh, I mean, there can be. You want to live there?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, so I would say of the two of those, that sounds more like people will be honest with you. Andy Kaufman, I feel like...
Anything can happen.
Anything could happen there. That sounds a little risky. Well, thank you very much. Now is a good time to reveal this to you, Mark. I'm actually a ghost.